A while ago, I showcased my 10 favorite Safari Ltd models. Today, I'm going to show you my top 10 favorite CollectAs. Now keep in mind, I have far fewer CollectAs than I do Safaris. I tend to choose models based on a tripod of 3 factors: sculptor detail, paint applications, and scientific accuracy. CollectA, just like Safari, tends to miss on the paint part, but in addition, there was a time when they also produced dinosaurs that were downright cartoony. However, as we'll see, one major plus for CollectA is that when it comes to newly discovered, revised, or obscure dinosaurs, they're almost always the first. I'll be including only dinosaurs because one thing CollectA also does really well is its non-dinosaur fauna. If I were to include these, such as this Confeterium, Uinterterium, and Lysowichia, it would be impossible to keep the 10. Again, I don't have as many CollectAs as I do Safari Ltds, so if there's any you like that you think is worth checking out, do comment below. Number 10 is the 2016 Paisalung. CollectA has a deluxe line of dinosaurs that supposedly follow a 1:40th scale. That's of course very nice for people like me who like to have only a few scales, so they display nicely together, though they tend to miss this scale by a large margin, especially for their mammals. In terms of length, this 22cm or 8.7-inch model does scale to 1:40th. The Paisalung's estimated 8 meters or 26 feet. However, in terms of height, it's way too tall. And tall and lanky describes this ornithomimosaur very well. You can see it's fully feathered, with a striking colour obviously based on the secretary bird. It's one of the earlier fully feathered dinosaur models for me, and just the unusual nature of it makes it always stand out amongst the other CollectAs. You can see that effort has been made to give it a better paint application. I like the head and face, with a dark red to crimson to orange in the jaw, yellow going towards the beak. The feathers have a nice dry brushing over them to bring out texture and detail, and to add some complexity. The detail is really nice, as you can see. This fade in the body here is really pleasing as well. Unfortunately, the scaly bits and base are really lazily painted in just the one color, even painting over these leaves. It's always nice to have a base instead of the clown feet or the wide load hips for balance, and although some of the proportions look off by today's standards, it still has a special place on my shelf. Number 9 is the 2016 Metriacanthosaurus. The Metriacanthosaurids are a clade of allosauroids that aren't as well known as the other usual suspects, but I'm sure you've heard of Yongchunsaurus and Sinraptor. Metriacanthosaurus gave its name to the clade even though it really has rather poor remains, and much of it usually borrows from Sinraptor. Still, it's a rare example of those times I might buy a model despite its fragmentary remains because of the sculpt, and here you can see why. Despite its small size, look at the detail they've incorporated here. The tiny teeth that are well separated, the ridges that have separated detail, and these spinal scutes that travel down here. You can see that even at this small size, they've included regional variability in scale detail. It's also nice for having a base for support, so affording realistic proportions. Estimated by Holtz at 8 meters or 26 feet, that makes this 16cm or 6.3-inch figure 1/50th scale. The color as well is nice for its size. In the head, you see the yellow highlight of the various ridges. The beige in the throat and underside. And these spots that are so subtly faded, they look good and natural. For something this small and cheap, I wouldn't have been surprised if it was given a more marker-like rendition, but no, so I was pleasantly surprised by it. Number 8 is the 2011 Torosaurus. Now here's an oldie but still a goldie. And it might be a surprising entrant because of its anatomical inaccuracies. However, I still love it because what jumps out about Torosaurus for me jumps out here. And although the frill shape isn't correct, the massiveness and length of it, extending way down here, is one of the defining points for me, and to see it captured here is a pleasure. And fittingly, the pattern and colour scheme is equally striking. These eye spots are brilliantly and vibrantly painted. The orange is nicely continued in the body and fades nicely into the light of the ventral tail and body. There are some glaring anatomical inaccuracies, such as the weight-bearing hands, though to their credit, they did leave digits 4 and 5 unclawed. At 13.5 cm or 5.3 inches and an estimated length of 9 meters or 29.5 feet, this model is about 1:65 scale. And while we're on Torosaurus, number 7 isn't any one model, but I'd say a collective. As a group, CollectA really has some nice Ceratopsians that do look good together and are commendable because of their diversity. Unfortunately, the one thing that lets down almost all of them are the basic paint apps that make them look more like toys than models. Now let me single out a few. Here we have the 2016 Regaliceratops. Such beautiful form and detail, including the unique apoccipitals. I really love the cheek look here. The 2014 Xenoceratops, which has a striking skunk-like colour scheme. I like the phase in the head. But again, let down by no complexity here. And interestingly, the 2016 Mercuriceratops, my favourite example of optimism in imagining an animal from just one bone element, the squamosal here. They all share pretty much the same bow plan, and that CollectA character choice, these quills, is pretty standard in all of them. Number 6 is the 2018 Brontosaurus. Now, this was the first and only Brontosaurus I got after the official declaration that Apatosaurus and Brontosaurus were indeed different animals in, I think it was 2015. There were a few I passed because they were just too small for my liking, and it wasn't until a couple of years before I had to admit that small sauropods were going to be the norm now. And just as well, since this is one of the few ones I started to like. So first, let's get the size out of the way. Taking an average estimate of 22 meters or 72 feet, this small model is 34 centimeters or 13.4 inches, making it 1/65th scale. And even most of that is here, if you uncurl this tail. The actual bulk itself is really unworthy of a sauropod, let alone one this iconic. Still, here's where we get to the credit part. And keep in mind how much better the following points would have been at a larger scale. Now first, you can see that these scales, while oversized, are really quite fine in absolute terms. They've also avoided the temptation of just hatching and cross-hatching to create texture, so there's a pleasing look in the lack of uniformity in them. There are these larger scutes down here, and interestingly, not only does it have the dorsal row of scutes on the back, it also has these two flanking rows that then converge here at the tail. Quite an interesting presentation. The eyes are tiny points of black, and yet given a shiny gleam to add life. And the teeth show separation as well. The hands show that thumb claw as it should, though I dare say the claw looks a bit too large. Coloration-wise, although in general it looks like just one flat wash of brown, you'll see that here there are actually subtle markings in the dorsal region. And in the belly. There's also quite a nice fade from brown to cream here. And even these scutes, which are often just painted one color, had some effort put in to at least create some complexity. And other than the size, this really would have been a lot better than it is. Number 5 is the 2012 Argentinosaurus. My favorite group of dinosaurs are the sauropods, mainly because of my fascination with their sizes. And within that group, the Titanosaurs rank the highest. And of those, I've often imagined how awesome it would be to get the 1 to 40th Argentinosaurus, having been imagined on screen thanks to the Land of Giants program. Of course, Argentinosaurus is highly fragmentary, often the disqualifying criterion for me. Now, much is usually reconstructed borrowing from other titanosaurs, but I simply couldn't resist this CollectA and what it's done here. Which is to capture even on this small scale the sheer bulk of the animal, and yet at the same time in this alert pose, capturing a kind of liveliness and urgency that belies this volume. And together with this curled tail, it's as if it was halted suddenly in its tracks, perhaps by the appearance of a predator. So here in this hypothetical depiction, we have some of the features we know of from other titanosaurs. The general posture, the limb proportions, and these scutes. Now you can see that the detailing is really good. I really like the rather organic look, being irregularly placed in size. The only thing lacking is the thickness of the neck that many modern reconstructions of titanosaurs now favor. And up here in the mouth, you can see the teeth. And here a bit of red on the head, a nice touch. And overall, you can see how pleasing the coloration looks. Especially in the way that these bands are blended in the neck and in the tail. The body patterns are also quite natural looking. In fact, save for the slightly cartoony eyes, the only complaint I have is really the size. The tiny size. Now this is 25 centimeters or 10 inches long, and only the maker knows how long the animal really was. I've seen estimates of 30 to 37 meters or 99 to 121 feet, and making this a miserable 1 to 120th to 1 to 148th scale.